Rob's having trouble getting his iPad connected.
I think it might be different. I think that as well.
Got it.
That's what I'm saying, that maybe the disconnect between the link.
Right.
So it's okay, the whole link.
Yeah, there's some kind of issue. There's some kind of technical issue going on. I cannot connect on my iPad, and I think Fred might be having problems too. I've tried the password probably a dozen times.
That's what it says too.
Yeah, Rob, I think there was a disconnect in the links with certain passwords, because there was two that got floated around, and I think
Yeah, I know. I've tried both of them, and I still can't get in.
Huh.
You can't get any?
Rhonda? Hold on a second.
Fred is saying it's not working for him.
Tell him to check his email again.
I've tried.
Just send it by text, because he's not going to find it in his emails. I keep, we get too many emails.
Yeah, we do.
So it's the newest one.
Rhonda's having problems too.
No,
Rhonda's
I've
on.
tried.
She's good.
Rhonda's on.
Oh, there you are. Okay.
Yep. Mark must be having problems.
I'm here.
No, Rhonda.
So Fred's the only one that's missing then.
How quickly you forget. What about Mark?
Oh my God, yeah. Is he supposed to be here? I mean, sometimes he's been absent. I mean, I didn't know. Are we live? We're not live, are we?
Yes.
We are?
He's been taking the bar exams.
Can you let them know?
Okay, we got.
I did.
Joe, can you close this curtain?
And we have city attorney coming on.
Because the sun's shining right in my eyes. It's the shield one. A little bit. Yeah, it's good. Thanks.
Okay. We have
Did
Fred.
you get the newest email?
It's Fred.
Now you're waiting for Robin.
Ellie, I can't see the shovel. Is it still behind you or did you move it?
You doing on camera?
Oh, there it is.
Guys, you're live.
Too bad the sequin hat doesn't show up too well. That should be right on your head.
Are you ready to log into your Zoom account?
Okay, everyone, it is 7:03, so people can drop in as they can catch up. I apologize. We're all living in a new world now. We know there are different technologies that we're dealing with. Thank you, everybody, for your patience. The special meeting of the Annapolis City Council on Monday, April 27th, 2020 will be called to order at 7 p.m. At this time, would everyone willing and able please stand for sit for the invocation, followed by, given by Alderwoman Tierney, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This task was a little overwhelming for me, so I sought guidance from my pastor, Reverend Carletta Allen, so she helped me with this. Dear God, thank you for the gift of breath that we took for granted until the world was turned upside down by a monster called COVID-19. We join our prayers and intentions for healing for those affected bodily, mentally, and emotionally by this pandemic. We gather tonight to govern. Remind us what that means. Remind us that we have power, influence, or control over what happens to the members, citizens, or residents of our communities, societies, and neighborhoods. Set before us the faces that are represented by the statistics on illnesses and death. Grant us the resolve to ensure that our communities will be better, stronger, more compassionate, responsive, and resilient. Give us courage to do what we can and must for the welfare of the people and our own souls' sake. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which
which stands
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty
and justice for
for
all.
all.
Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley?
Yes.
Alderman Tierney?
Here,
Alderman Payon?
Here.
Alderman Pendle Charles?
Here,
Alderman Finlayson?
Present?
Alderman Rodriguez? Alderman Gay?
Here.
Alderman Savage?
Present.
Alderman Arnett?
Present.
I'm not sure. It's a really, really weird. I can't really hear you that well. Anyone. I'm not sure if it's like what's going on.
I can hear you okay. Alderman Gay. No. Mr. City Attorney, please present the first item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The first item on the agenda is approval of the agenda.
At this time, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended to add a discussion on public comments and FT4-20 public works transfer. Alderman Arnett, the motion. Thank you.
moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Alderman Payon. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
You have to say all in favor.
Yes?
here. Does anyone else have a hard time hearing Regina?
Yeah,
I'm having a hard time hearing Regina.
Yeah.
Actually, you guys just approved the agenda, so we need an all in favor.
We can barely hear you, Regina.
Coming closer. You just approved the agenda as amended, so we just need an all in favor, because we had a motion made by Alderman Arnett that was seconded by Alderman Payon. So all in favor.
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is petitions, reports, and communications, beginning with update from the mayor.
So good evening, everyone. I think we're getting the hang of this virtual stuff, or I thought we were. I appreciate the support of the public while we all learn new ways of doing things. Annapolis is a remarkable city and community with a lot of love in its heart. I was fortunate enough to be able to take our mayor's office staff to Pit Moyer early this morning to unload 9,000 pounds of food, a tractor trailer full of groceries from the Maryland Food Bank. This food was sorted and handed out to people in need in our community. We packed up groceries, including fresh produce and meat. This effort was organized by the Light of the World Ministries and Pastor Cheryl Menendez with the help of the Office of Emergency Management. In addition, Feed Anne Arundel gave away prepared meals so that folks could return home and have a delicious hot lunch or dinner from a number of the fantastic restaurants in and around Annapolis. I drove by a little before 2 p.m. today, and the line snaked all the way down Hilltop to Primrose. That is nearly a mile lineup of cars. They served 618 families and 1,760 meals. And it wasn't enough. The demand is overwhelming. So please contribute to the food bank if you have the means. The crisis is going to be the heart of the basic necessities we need to survive. Ability to pay for rent, to afford utilities, to put food on the table. Your generosity is appreciated. I want to thank all the volunteers and all the restaurants who are doing so much during this unprecedented time. I know this is hard and difficult, and it's all part of the journey right now. Whether you're working as an essential worker, putting your health on the line to help others as a first responder, or a grocery clerk or a bus driver, this is very trying. If you're out of work or your business is closed and you don't know what tomorrow holds, I want to acknowledge that difficulty as well. There is a lot of uncertainty. We need you to stick with it in order to get to the other side. Please stay home as much as possible. Wear a face covering whenever you go out. Wash your hands thoroughly and frequently, and practice social distancing. We don't know what happens next, but we can work towards goals that we have control over, how the future looks in our city. I want to tell you about some initiatives. We have our Small Business Recovery Task Force. There are nearly 4 dozen members of this appointed group, all businessmen and women from all around the city, representing all kinds of businesses, ventures, situated in all wards. They're helping us find a path forward and also to assist businesses in the immediate and intermediate future. So far, they have held 4 online seminars. These events, hosted by consultant Patrick Sherney, have focused on answering questions about the complicated grant and loan process. What's available, what's closed, what's coming online in the CARES Act, and other federal and state actions. Let me read some comments about the seminar and from the seminar. One from Derek Williams, who said, what a really informative meeting today. It's good to know I'm not alone in this process. From Tina Hinchman, thank you so much. I almost cancelled and didn't attend, thinking I'm not going to be able to get any help. Even if it's only $1,000, it helps. John Brock said, thank you very much for the conference call today. The call was very helpful, but almost more importantly, I finally felt that someone was listening. I encourage you to sign up for the email blast from the city's Office of Economic Development so that you'll know when future events take place. You can find them on our website at www.annapolis.gov. Next, we've been holding a series of town halls every other Thursday at 4 p.m. First, we talked about health initiatives and businesses. Then we talked about food and mental health resources. Last Thursday, we had a number of young people join us to talk about their experience in the pandemic. I want to thank all the participants. For all the young people who joined us, we have City Council citations to thank you for playing a part in helping people understand the pandemic's impact from a youth perspective. Please check your mailbox. Speaking of youth, right now, Maryland State Superintendent of Schools, Karen Salmon, has extended school closures until May 15th. In the meantime, students are expected to be distance learning. Students are asked to visit the Google Classroom portals for each class in their schedule. Students are being asked to complete 1 assignment per subject that is graded per week. Please contact your school or your child's teacher if your child is having difficulty getting connected. Anne Arundel County Public Schools is distributing Chromebook laptops to students, and they're working with vendors to provide Wi-Fi and locations to create hotspots. If you are still having unmet technology needs, you can get the Learning on the Go sheet for your child at any daily meal pickup. A reminder, schools continue to offer 3 grab-and-go meals each day for any child. Please visit any of the pickup locations in the county. You do not need to go to your child's home school, but you do need to have your child with you. For more information, visit aacps.org. I want to express our appreciation to Alderman Ellie Tierney and for the city staff who volunteered to sew masks for our essential city workers. These include Karen Steele, Tricia Hopkins, Felicia Nolan, Miguel Dennis, Michelle Cross, Joanne McCain, Christina O'Neill. Alderwoman Sheila Finlayson donated fabric. This is how we show our community coming together and making a difference that really counts. We have got to slow the spread of this virus, and wearing a face covering is a vital and meaningful way to do just that. So thank all of you. Next, a shout out to Adonis Bishop, Facilities Maintenance Technician for the Department of Public Works, who came up with an innovative design for plexiglass sneeze guards for our fleet of buses. These are being installed on city buses in order to protect both the drivers and the public. So thank you, GRIP. We've been able to hold 2 blood drives in the city at Pitmoyer Rec Centre. Be on the lookout for more. There is a critical blood shortage. You can also give at Anne Arundel Medical Centre. There is a pre-screening process by phone, and all blood donations are by appointment only. No site is accepting walk-ins. Please call the Red Cross or AAMC. Speaking of walk-ups, we also held another of our COVID-19 pop-up testing sites at Harbour House, Esport, Terrace. From the beginning, I've been pushing for testing because I believe that is the way to get people back to some semblance of normalcy. Today's testing was a partnership with the Anne Arundel County Department of Health, who got us the test kits and the swabs. Last week at the Parole Community Health Centre, we had 134 people come out for testing. Of those, 30% of the tests were positive. 70% were negative, but that is a high rate. Check the Department of Health websites for testing locations and future pop-up sites in the city of Annapolis. Finally, a preview of what is in our immediate future. We remain under a state of emergency, but that doesn't mean we can't have a few Annapolis traditions. May Day is Friday. The Garden Club of Annapolis won't be awarding ribbons or be judging made baskets, but we are hoping that residents and businesses participate in this annual tradition. I hope to walk the streets of Annapolis while wearing my face covering to see and enjoy the blooms and decorations on doors and front porches. We'll share some of the photos of our favorites on Facebook and Instagram. Please join us by posting your May basket in the comments. Annapolis, stay safe, hang in there. For tonight, let's get our meeting started. Mr. City Attorney, next item on the agenda.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Reports of committees is the next item on the agenda.
Anybody like to make a report?
Mr. Mayor, I would.
Alderman Pindell Charles.
Thank you. I'm not sure if we're going to have a public safety committee meeting on Monday. I had indicated to our public safety team in these times, and they're working extremely hard, that unless we have legislation, that we will not have a meeting. Everyone agreed to that unless there's something that's dire that we need to talk about. So I'm not quite sure, but I know we will be getting something this week concerning whether there's legislation on the agenda. But our public safety team, police, fire, and the Office of Emergency Management have done a yeoman's job, as well as our other departments. So I did not want to tax them with a meeting if there were not legislation involved. So hopefully that works well for Alderman Payon as well as for Alderman Gay.
Thank you.
Fine by me.
Okay, no other reports. I don't see any hands up. Oh, Alderman Arnett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Finance Committee has been working for the last couple of weeks. I want to thank the committee members, also the finance director, the city manager, and all the staff, and particularly Takia, who has been keeping us on track. And it looks to me like we're well on our way to having the Finance Committee report done. We're hoping to make it more than ever helpful to the rest of our colleagues on the council, so that their decision on the final budget will be much easier. So thank you, committee, and everyone else.
May the 13th is the Housing and Community Development meeting at 7 o'clock. And we're also still encouraging people to submit public comment for the 5-year consolidated housing plan as well.
Thank you, Alderman Gay. Anybody else? Thank you all. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, the next item is public comments, web form. Written comments were sent to the city council members prior to this meeting.
don't have a list, right? Okay. No public comments so far,
Nope.
but it is open, right?
Yes.
Yep, it is.
City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Wait, time. We have
Alderman
several, we have several public comments.
Hold on. You're gonna the mayor's gonna read the comments into the record under the appropriate sections on the agenda. We have a lot of public hearings where the comments came in, and so we will be reading the name and the address of the person who submitted the forms under that section.
And that is further down the agenda next to the things? Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Alderman Arnett. Thank you.
Next item, Mr. Mayor, is approval of the consent calendar.
Okay. Are there any objections to any items on the consent calendar? Alderman Arnett,
Move approval of consent calendar?
second. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley,
Yes.
Alderwoman Finlayson,
Aye.
Alderman Rodriguez,
Aye.
Alderman Gay,
Aye.
Alderman Savage,
Aye.
Alderman Arnett,
Aye.
Alderwoman Tierney,
Aye.
Alderman Payon,
Aye.
Alderwoman Pendle Charles.
Aye.
That carries.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda. Going to unmute Mr. City Attorney.
Thought I hit it. Sorry. The next item on the agenda, Mr. Mayor, is public hearings continued beginning 03919 accessory dwelling units for the purpose of allowing dwelling units in all zoning districts that allow single-family detached dwellings, establishing use requirements for accessory dwelling units, adding definitions, making stylistic changes, and generally related to accessory dwelling units.
We have received comments from Phil Dales of 181 Harry S. Truman Parkway. And that is the only comments we have received in writing. So I declare the public hearing on O-39-19 closed. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes,
Mr. Mayor,
Alderman Arnett.
I would ask that we not close any public hearings, given the situation with trying to get hearings from the public. I mean, the fact that we only got one, this is a very important piece of legislation.
This is the second.
I'm certainly going to ask for long continuation or rescheduling of the comments on the piece of legislation that I have. But I think in this time, it's really, it's incumbent upon us to try to make these things as open as possible for the public.
I'm just going to get Regina to comment on that, please.
Alderman Arnett, this is the second meeting that this was on for public hearing. These are the hearings that were continued from the April 13th City Council meeting. Did you
But
want
I would
to?
submit that the public still doesn't know how to get comments in. I've still gotten questions just today on how do I get public comments in. So I don't think we have the system perfected yet.
Okay, I was just
So-
for clarification.
You want to push it back to the next council meeting? Regina, I did close it. Can I open it up again? Yeah.
Yes.
Can I say something?
Alderman Rodriguez?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think, there'll be, there'll be several amendments to this legislation, which will probably require more public hearings because of the code saying that the significant changes require a public hearing if, an ordinance is changed through amendments. So there'll be more opportunity for public hearing on this, on 03919. So I suggest we just keep it closed and continue the process.
Thank you. Alderman Savage.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I'd like to just echo a colleague from Ward 5 because I would like to have it get to committee because there are a number of amendments I'd like to be introducing and discussing, and it, very well may have to come back for another public hearing after that.
Alderman Tierney?
Thank you. Will it have to go back to the Planning Commission? Because I know they had significant concern with it. So I assume it goes back to them?
Not unless you request it.
No, yes?
No, only the amendments would.
Okay, after it's amended.
Yeah.
But
Right.
But to that point, a lot of the amendments will be to address some of their concerns. So
Right, they had a lot, yeah.
Okay, so if you want to put a motion forward to continue it, you can. Ross, it doesn't look like.
I will put it forward. I think that this, and we're introducing a lot of other new legislation. The community, the residents are really feeling very much left out of it. This one, I know, because of the perceived imperfections in it, and because of the comments of the Planning Commission, is very controversial. If there was an assurance that this was going to go back to the Planning Commission, I might feel more comfortable about it. But if that's not in the minds of the sponsors, I really do think that this needs to have more comment period. But we can have a vote.
Do you have a second? Alderman Pound, are you seconding it or?
I am, and I had a comment to make. If I might.
Yes, Alderman Pound.
I think that, during these times we're dealing with legislation, or at least attempting to deal with it the same as we would any other time. I don't really think that's realistic. I don't think people know what's on the agenda. I don't think that they feel they have the opportunity to come in. Well, they don't have the opportunity to come in and testify. I don't think they feel that they have the, at this point, the right to submit written testimony. And, if I had my druthers, I don't think I would not really cover anything major other than on an emergency basis. The reason for that is that we're just not up to full strength. We're not operating the way we normally are capable of operating. And hopefully within the next couple of meetings, we'll be back live in person. But until we do that, I just don't really, I'm not going to say it's not fair, but I'm not sure the public, for that matter, I'm not sure myself and my colleagues have the same opportunity to investigate and to deal with important or significant matters. Don't mind doing the relatively small stuff if there is such a thing, but when it comes to the what most of us would consider critical issues, I don't think this isn't a very good time for us to be dealing with it. And part of that is leaving hearings open, giving people as long as possible to comment. I don't think that's unreasonable. Thank you.
We've got Alderman Savage and Alderman Gay and then Alderman Rodriguez. Did I miss anyone on this side?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah,
Again, if you want.
I think it's been open for 2 meetings or more. I'm open to postponing it. I want to generally just give that courtesy to colleagues to have more time if you feel like you need it or your constituents need it. But I also, on the other hand, would like to get a better understanding of what kind of timeline you are envisioning for Alderman Payon. When do you think would be the time to start bringing up large legislation again, and what do you think needs to get done to get to that point? And Alderman Arnett, kind of a similar question, like what do you think we need to do to ensure that our residents are aware of public hearings? What do we need to do to get to?
Well, to me, when City Hall opens back up again, would be the time to do it. And I think we're within probably a few weeks of that happening under certain circumstances. We kind of kicked this around a little bit today and after the Finance Committee meeting, and we even talked about having people line up in the conference room on the second floor perhaps, and, testify from there. Maybe even downstairs, set something up in the lobby. I don't know. I don't have the answers, but I just don't think it's right to, close off public hearings on anything, even halfway major, during this COVID process. People are home. Some people are sick. Some people, are working different hours and don't really have the same opportunity they normally would have. That's all.
No, Alderman Savage put the question to you, Alderman Arnett.
Yes, thank you. Actually, the answer is somewhat complicated, as is usual for me, but frankly, the Planning Commission suggested this be withdrawn and rewritten. I hear some of the authors saying that they are thinking about substantive changes to this legislation. I would like a process where the authors, the sponsors, go ahead and put forth those changes. They may placate some of the concerns coming from the community and from the Planning Commission, and I don't understand what would stop that from happening, but I'm certainly open to suggestions about how we can proceed. To be honest with you, because I think the public hearing process is yet so imperfect that most people don't know how to do it and are unable to figure out the system. It's not clear that just leaving it open for one more time really would be a help. And frankly, I think a better help would be to hear the kinds of changes to the legislation that are being contemplated, and then we can go back on from there. I suspect that if there is as significant as the Planning Commission was suggesting needed to be done, it really would be appropriate to go back to the Planning Commission.
Alderman Gay was next.
I'll basically echo what Alderman Savage and Rodriguez had said in the beginning. Obviously, we intend to change the legislation. Public comment on this particular legislation has been open for quite some while. In fact, we had two town halls at the Esport fire station, which Rob attended, where the public in great numbers had an opportunity to comment on this legislation. We've received several emails over the course of the last couple of weeks in regard to the changes of legislation, as well as the Planning Commission findings. So it needs to be changed, and it will be done. And then to the point of it not being emergency legislation or particularly important, I find it particularly important considering the financial difficulties that so many families will continue to go through over the course of the next couple of months and maybe even years. You'll need a place to stay, and downsizing will be key. And housing like this is created for reasons like that, not for short-term rental, but to let families and young groups have a place to live that is affordable. So I look forward to getting this through with the amendments.
So Alderman Rodriguez, then Alderman Pindell-Charles, and then you, Rob.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And again, I just, of course, echo what Alderman Gay and Alderman Savage are saying. And I understand the concerns around the difficulties or challenges right now with comment, but the truth of the matter is we still are getting public comment in and in written format, which we can refer back to. I think all legislation has to stop just because of that. This is legislation that has been introduced and made public for several months now. We've gotten feedback from public testimony from months back, letters from the Esport Civic Association, for example. The Planning Commission did their work and there were certain important findings, and Alderman Gay said we are addressing those. And so the matter, it's important that we continue with this process because there are going to be changes. It should be going to committee and should be, and I'm confident that the changes will require another public hearing. I mean, and it just gives us the opportunity to continue moving forward with that discussion versus the original version.
Alderman Pindell-Charles.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm looking around the dais here, and I think the deeper question here, and I'm looking at my older colleagues, and I'm in that league, I guess my deeper question is, who is exactly focused on this type of legislation when a lot of people are now focused, and I'm, getting a lot of it, they're focused on meals, they're focused on health. Are they really focused on legislation that's not necessarily COVID-19 emphasized? So that's the deeper question here. It may be an age issue, because that's kind of what I'm seeing, and I understand both sides. But like I said, the deeper question is, most people I think right now are focused on children getting their meals, children getting their Chromebooks through the school system, access to e-learning, their own health situations. We just, like I said, the mayor said we had our health center COVID-19 testing. 30% of the persons tested positive. We've got a lot of issues centered around that. So overall, is this legislation really what people are focusing on? I don't really know what the real estate market is at this point. I think it's not as it should be and as it has been. So I think that all should be taken into consideration. Thank you.
Alderman Savage was next.
Thank you.
I'll get Alderman Finlayson on that and Alderman Rodriguez after that.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'll admit, after hearing my colleagues, I was going to support delay, as you made some very good points. However, I'm looking at the record online, and it looks like this legislation has been open for public hearing since January 13th. It looks like there were 4. This is the 4th public hearing that we've had on this. And I remember when we postponed it before, it was for similar reasons. Well, hey, the public hasn't had a chance to comment, when we essentially have had a very minimal amount of people come out and testify. So I think it's been up for public hearing long enough. It started again before this pandemic hit. And I think I would like to get started on some of these. I think I was looking at other jurisdictions. I have some amendments that I already have spoken to Alderman Rodriguez about, that I think will help bring some more balance to this and address people's concerns. But, I like to actually do a lot of the work in committee to bounce off ideas with colleagues. But I'll try to get some of those out beforehand.
And we know there'll be substantive, so there'll be more time. Alderwoman Finlayson?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The 3 sponsors have agreed that they want to go forward with this legislation. We cannot give them an opportunity to add the amendments or sponsor the amendments if we don't get it to committee. So I'm glad, thank you, Alderman Savage, for looking at the record to show how long this has been open for public hearing. And I agree, it's been open for quite a while. So I think it's now time, since the sponsors agree, that we move the legislation forward, let it go to the respective committees, let the amendments be added. If it has to go back to the Planning Commission, then it gets another hearing. But I say it's time. But I also want to speak to what we do from here on out. Because we have several other pieces of legislation that it will be proposed that they're too big or too significant for us to hear. I don't think we're ever going to get back to doing business like we used to. And I don't think we can afford as a city, as the policymakers, to do nothing until we wait until it gets back to normal. I think we've got to find a new path to travel and to make sure that we do the business of the city, even under these trying circumstances. So I think we should move ahead as best we can. If we have the support of the majority of the council, then I say, let's go for it. Thank you.
Alderman Rodriguez was next.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And so I just wanted to quickly address one important issue that Alderwoman Padilla Charles brought up, which is critical. And I do think this ADU legislation has to do with the COVID pandemic outbreak, because we have to be thinking and pushing legislation forward that thinking beyond the horizon, and housing affordability is going to be a major issue given the economic devastation of the city and the community that is occurring nationally. loss of jobs, loss of income, evictions, so forth. So thinking ahead in housing affordability is one of the major components that we need to be thinking and pushing forward right now.
And I'm going to go to Alderman Tierney. But remember, we pushed this, the public hearings back for most of last council meetings thing. So for every one of these, if we debate them, we have to think about how long that's going to take. So Alderwoman Tierney.
Yeah, I thought I'd just add that I think we all have to understand that this is a work in progress, and I want to commend the city clerk for giving us this tool, which is new to all of us. And I, for one, see that my constituents are using it, but the responsibility does come upon us to make sure that they know how to do it, which is basically click the link and write their testimony, et cetera. Because the elephant in the room, if you will, is the budget ordinance, and we can't stall legislation. We have to pass a budget ordinance by a certain date. So I think we all have to try to follow this process of the written testimony, which I believe is the concern. We can't stall, as my colleague Alderwoman Finlayson said, we can't stall our work. So I think there's going to be a lot of bumps, along the road, but we just have to try to move forward as best we can.
So I'm going to call the question, Alderman Arnett.
Yes, I just want to know why Dr. Nash has had that knowing smile throughout all of this discussion.
I need a picture like that. Okay, the city clerk, please call the roll.
Mayor Buckley?
And just can you repeat what you're calling the roll for? It's Alderman Arnett's.
Alderman Arnett's motion
Need
is
your
to.
microphone on.
Alderman Arnett's postpone is
Gina.
to.
That's it. Thank you.
Okay. Alderman Arnett's motion is to continue the public hearing, and it was seconded by Alderman Payon, but we need a date certain. Alderman Arnett.
What's the ordinance number?
It's 039, the public hearing. He wanted to continue it, to keep it open.
Oh, what?
03919.
19.
Okay, 03919.
Yes.
Thank you.
Alderman Arnett, we need a date, please.
2 council meetings, which will give me enough time to send out to at least my constituents, alerting them that speak now
was that, May
or
26th?
forever hold your peace.
26, right? So that will be until May the 26th?
Yes.
Okay. So, Mr. Mayor, are you ready for your roll call?
Yes. No.
Okay. Mayor Buckley?
No.
Alderman Finlayson?
No.
Alderman Rodriguez?
No.
Alderman Gay? Alderman Gay?
Oh, I'm sorry, no.
Alderman Savage?
No.
Alderman Arnett?
Yes.
Alderwoman Tierney?
No.
Alderman Payon?
Yes.
Alderwoman Pendell Charles? Can't hear you. Alderman?
Yes.
Thank you. That motion was defeated. So, Mr. Mayor, what is the next call?
Thank you.
We're closing
there
it
will
today?
be plenty of time. Sorry.
So the hearing will be closed today?
Yep. There will be plenty of time for comments. I promise. I'm sure that the changes look very substantive. So thank you, everybody. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes. The next item on the agenda is 0520, City Council Meetings Order of Business for the purpose of modifying the order of business for regular and special meetings of the City Council.
So this, again, we have received no comments. Can you tell me how long it's been open, please, Ms. City Clerk?
That was open. I think that the 05 was open since the last City Council meeting on April 13th.
Thank you. Does anybody want to postpone this? Thank you. I declare the public hearing on 0-5-20. Oh. Actually, we are leaving it open till Tuesday, May 26th. Somebody has put that in. Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is 0820 Harbors and Waterfront Areas Code Updates. For the purpose of updating certain definitions, removing obsolete language, requiring regular pump out of vessels holding tank, making stylish changes, and generally relating to updating Title 15.
And we've received comments again from Phil Dales. Any comments from my colleagues? I declare the public hearing on O-8-20 closed. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is O-1020 Zoning Code Applications Written Notification Requirement for the purpose of increasing the distance for sending written notification to abutting property owners for planned developments, major subdivisions, and major site design applications.
We have received comments from John J. Schwartz, Vincent Coniglia, and Brian Toomey. Any comments from my colleagues? Alderwoman Tierney.
Wait a minute, sorry. Yeah, hi. Alderman Arnett, I don't mean to direct the question, but I think there's some concern in the public testimony that this applies to residential developments. Was that your read on some of those testimonies? And I'm being ignorant here. I'm not sure if it needs any sort of clarification, because those concerns were about residential developments, and this, I believe, was just for planned developments and major subdivisions and major site design. Maybe I should direct that to Michael.
Yeah, you are correct. I mean, it's only, yeah, you're right.
Oh, okay, so, right. Okay, so we don't need to correct it. It was just their misunderstanding of okay.
Are you talking about O-10-20?
Yes.
Yes, the increased notification.
It's not my legislation.
Oh, sorry. I thought there was some testimony I thought that came from your
There
board.
are two of the people are from Ward 8, the other is from Ward 1, I believe. It's a big change. I did also receive other direct testimony, people worrying about how hard it'll be for them to identify, particularly when there's apartments or condominiums. Similar kinds of testimony we got when we were doing the legislation requiring a preliminary hearing before major site design was proposed. I think when we get into the deliberations here, we're going to have to talk about what kind of help we can get from planning and zoning and Sean Wampler with the GIS to help people get a proper list that's 3 times or 4 times as large as the current list would be. But I think those are, things will work out.
Alderman Gay had his hand up.
Yeah, no, I just was, there was concern, Ellie, in the public testimony the written public testimony that we received earlier. And I forwarded and asked for, written statement back from the planning and zoning staff, just to be sure that was taken care of.
Thank you. I declare the public hearing on O-10-20 closed. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is public hearings on O-1520 Waterfront Mixed Maritime District for the purpose of allowing professional offices in the WMM zoning district in accordance with certain standards, amending certain parking standards, and making stylistic changes.
We have received comments from Vic Pascoe, Phil Dales, and Brett Anderson. Alderman Arnett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm of 2 minds on this one. I'm not even really sure why it's up for a public hearing, because normally this would go to the Planning Commission because it's a change in Title 21, where there would be public hearings. Then it would come back where the public could speak on what the Planning Commission has said, both before the council and then before the committee. I would either like to keep this open for quite a while, or better from my perspective, reopen the public hearing on this after it's gone through the Planning Commission. And then I know this to be a very sensitive piece of legislation. I'm hearing a lot of points of view, certainly from within my ward, but also outside of the ward. So this is a piece of legislation that I would definitely want to not really even get into until after the budget's done and we see what kind of relief we're going to get from the virus. So I could go either way. I either would like to leave this open for council meetings or reopen it after it's gone to the Planning Commission, which is the normal process.
Alderman Tierney had a hand up.
Yes, is this going before Economic Matters? And if not, may I suggest that it does?
No.
You can
Gina?
refer it there. She can refer it there. I don't think it was forwarded to them.
Yeah, could I suggest that this legislation get reviewed by the Economic Matters Committee?
Mm-hmm.
May I ask why?
Because I think it's an economic decision. I think that the decision to move this legislation should be based on economic data, the viability of office space and use.
I think it certainly does need to have that kind of analysis, and I have no wish to thwart the desires of any of the other committees. I did think we were trying to get back to getting legislation going to the committees where it's relevant, but I have no problem with that.
Okay, I don't see any motions. Alderman
May I
Finlayson?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. What committee is it assigned to?
Rules, Planning, Maritime Advisory Board, and Rules.
Just rules, okay. And
Rules has the responsibility for legislation that has to do with 2021, 22, and numerous others.
I know it was rules, but I thought it was another committee.
It is two more.
Okay,
Thank you. To rules, maritime.
Do I have to make
Motion?
do I make a motion for that, or is
You don't have to do
that
that.
just
Oh,
happen?
no, should we have it? Ellie, thank you.
Okay.
So my preference would be to close this, reopen it after the Planning Commission, and at that time, make a determination of how long we need to keep it open to make sure everybody has an opportunity. Failing that, I would like to propose that it remain open for at least 4 more council meetings, which should give us enough time for it to get through the Planning Commission and definitely give people time. Maybe three council meetings. I don't know what the date of that is, but I certainly think it should come back for public hearing after it goes to the Planning Commission.
Regina?
Alderman Arnett, just for clarification, is it your preference to have this hearing left open until we receive the Planning Commission findings?
You were garbled.
Would you
Yeah.
are you requesting that we keep the public hearing on 015-20 open until we receive the Planning Commission findings?
Well, in typical fashion, I made a complicated request of doing 2 things, either keeping it open for at least 3 more council meetings. That has the deleterious effect of forestaying, the reason this is even being submitted in all this crisis time is because there's an urgency for the Annapolis City Marina losing tenants, and they want to know if they can get this relief. The better solution to me was that this be rescheduled to come before the council after it's gone through the Planning Commission. That would be my preference. Failing that, I would propose we keep it open for 3 more council meetings.
So let's just go with your preference, Ross. We'll declare this closed, and then we'll reopen it up after it's been to the commission, okay?
Fine.
Okay, I declare the public hearing in 0-15-20 closed.
Point of order.
Yeah, that's-
City Attorney, can we do that? Can we close the public hearing and then reopen it?
Well, you're not going to reopen the public hearing. You're just going to reopen for deliberations after the Planning Commission comes back with findings.
Okay.
Well, then that's,
With no more public hearing.
well, that's not acceptable. I propose we keep this open for three more council meetings.
Second.
And I really would, at some point, maybe when we're discussing for the good of the order later, I really don't understand why this even got on the agenda the way it did, but that's another topic.
Do you want to give some clarification on that, Regina?
It's on the agenda right now because there's an issue with the city code. There are two different sections that speak to ordinances. One says that ordinances, once introduced on first reader, have to be placed on a city council agenda within 45 days. And then in another section of the code, it states that any item going to the planning commission must have a public hearing. So we have to put it on, and then we need to have the findings and have a hearing also. So the code needs a correction.
That second is news to me because we've never done it that way before.
That's
But
correct.
remember, this was only introduced through amending the agenda at the last council meeting. So many people weren't even aware that this was coming up. Now they're aware. They are starting to provide input to me and I assume others. And I think we need to give them appropriate time. If we're going to hold this open for X number of city council meetings, does that delay it going to the planning commission?
No.
Well, this is not the process that I'm familiar with. The process for things that are going to the planning commission is that they are introduced on first reader. They go to the planning commission, they do their thing. Those recommendations come back to the council, then we have a public hearing. Then it goes to the appropriate committee or committees. That is the way it's been for 12 years.
Gina?
Alderman Arnett, you are correct. And then we had a city manager, Ms. Teresa Sutherland, who reviewed the code very thoroughly, and it does state two different things in two different sections. I think Mr. Lyles did a kind of a little review on it, and it had to go on the agenda, so we placed it on.
One of the things, Mr. Mayor,
Yep.
one of the
Lieutenant?
because of that consistency, we suggested to the city council several work sessions ago that items for legislation go right to the committees without having to be put on the agenda, so that you wouldn't run into this bottleneck like we're doing now and be beholden to these timetables that are in the code inconsistently in a couple of different places. Because the code does allow for agenda items or legislation proposed to go to various commissions and committees for review and for opinions.
That's absolutely not acceptable to me. The whole reason for having public hearing before it goes to the committees is so the committees have a sense of the public input. So going directly to the committee just cuts the public out. That's absolutely not an acceptable way to do things. From me, I'm only one of 9 votes, but I would certainly want to hear public hearing before we send this off into a corner with the council committees.
So Alderman Arnett, you're proposing keeping it open for 3 more council sessions. If you give us a date, it's your legislation. I'm sure you have support. Alderman Gay?
June 10th.
Yeah, when it goes to the planning commission, it goes in public hearing.
Wouldn't 3 meetings be June 10th?
Yeah.
So would you be
Wouldn't
satisfied
3
with
meetings
that
be June
public
10th?
hearing? Do you want it to go, or are you
Okay.
really requesting that it go before a public hearing twice?
I do want it to go before public hearing twice, once before the planning commission, and then after people have seen what the planning commission says, come before the council for a public hearing, and then go to committee. That is for me the preferred way. That's the way we've always done it. And I really have a problem. This is a particularly sensitive piece of legislation. So to change horses with this particular piece of legislation, I find very troublesome.
Is that kind of redundant though, because you'd get the planning commission findings and they would kind of fit the legislation to the criteria that meets the public's concerns, correct? And then bring it to us.
Absolutely not redundant. In fact, it's extremely helpful to do it that way. The planning commission really gets into the nitty-gritty of this. They bring to it their wealth of experience with Title 21 in particular, and much of the history of things that have gone on in the past. And by the way, this is also going to the Maritime Advisory Board, another body that I think we need to hear of. And then when you go to the public hearing after that, the public, like the rest of us, can go to iLegislate, read the legislation, read what the Planning Commission said, read what the Maritime Advisory Board said, and then give their opinions before it goes to the council committee. And we're armed with that information from their point of view.
Regina, you want to give us some, you had your hand up?
Alderman Arnett, I just want to state that if you wanted to postpone this for 3 city council meetings, this legislation would come back on the city council docket for a public hearing on June 8th.
You're proposing that?
I don't, when it's scheduled for the Planning Commission on May 28th? Yes, so June the 8th is fine. If it'll have gone to the Planning Commission, I don't know that we'll have the Planning Commission findings back by then, but we can see if we have it, and if we need to wait for one more, we can always ask for postponement for one more council meeting at that time. But so June the 8th, I think, would give us time to hear both from the Maritime Advisory Board and the Planning Commission.
Okay.
Do a roll call, Madam City Clerk?
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley.
Yes.
Alderwoman Finlayson.
Yes. Aye.
Alderman Rodriguez.
Aye.
Alderman Gay.
Aye.
Alderman Savage.
Aye.
Alderman Arnett.
Aye.
Alderwoman Tierney.
Aye.
Alderman Payon.
Aye.
Alderwoman Pendell Charles.
Aye.
Okay, that motion carries.
Thank you. Well, there was a time sensitivity you were dealing with, Ross, but no problems.
Well, there is, but we do need to have time for both the Planning Commission and the Maritime Advisory Board. And I don't really truly know, the people that have come to me asking for this have been told that a major component government group are being moved out. I don't know that they have a date certain. So I'm trying to find a balance between making sure that they're not left in a lurch. If this gets passed, it may not even be passed, and also giving the community that have already very much signaled that they have a lot of questions about the legislation.
Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is public hearings on 1620 annual budget and appropriation and property tax levy for the purpose of adopting the city budget comprising the annual operating budget for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2021, the capital budget for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2021, the capital improvement program for the fiscal years ending June 30, 22, June 30, 2023, June 30, 2024, 25, and 26, appropriating funds for all expenditures for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2020 and ending June 30, 2021, levying and imposing property taxes and ending June 30, 2021, and fixing the rate of the city property tax for the taxable year.
So we are leaving this open. We have received opinions from Carl Larkin. I declare the public hearing on 0-16-20 left open till Monday, May 11th, 2020. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, the next item on the agenda is legislative actions, first reader, beginning with 1320 sidewalk signs for the purpose of extending the sidewalk sign permit fee waiver to a date certain.
Is there a motion to adopt O-13-20 on first reader?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, Alderman Tierney?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I forgot that we don't have a dais, so we have an amendment drafted, and I'd like to introduce it on the floor.
You don't amend on first reader.
What's that?
Regina?
You don't amend on first reader. We have to adopt it on first reader and suspend the rules. And then you can adopt it on second and amend. We're on first reader.
Okay.
We have to vote on the first reader first, then
I thought we
Suspend the
just
rules.
did, sorry. Okay.
No, you have.
Okay, so we got a second and a first on that. No discussion. All those in favor by show of hands, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that looks unanimous.
now we need, Mr. Mayor, a motion to suspend the rules.
Yep, is there a motion to suspend the rules to allow passage of resolution at the meeting of its introduction? Ellie?
So moved.
Second from Rhonda, thank you.
Discussion?
Yes, Ellie?
What is the urgency for passing this?
Well, hence the amendment.
Which we just are now seeing.
I don't think you have it. I was going to introduce it on the floor.
It's not Amendment 1?
Madam City Clerk?
Yes, sir. Since we are in a virtual meeting and she provided us with the amendment prior to the meeting, we did upload it to your agenda. So you have the amendments.
Thank you, Regina.
I've seen it, yes.
Ellie, you want to talk us through it? Thank you.
Sure, yeah. It is the most inopportune time to keep this fluid. So we extended.
Oh.
What happened there?
We shouldn't be talking about the amendment right now. We're suspending the rules. You amend on second reader.
So you want to just say what the amendment is?
No, we need to discuss suspending the rules, not the amendment.
Right, we're suspending the
Correct.
rules and we have a second, so we need an all in favor to continue to get to second reader.
Let's do a roll call.
Well, can we get some background information on the legislation?
No.
Yeah.
We've got to suspend, we got to suspend the rules first.
You
Then
have-
you
So
can-
we're going to vote.
No, I just want
Unanimously.
basic information on the legislation. If the sponsor can give some information on the legislation itself.
1320?
Yeah.
Yes.
Sure, yes. Sidewalk signs were never legislated. They were never codified as other signs. So planning and zoning and the city attorney at the time had me sponsor legislation that basically legalized them. And then for legal reasons, a permit was also asked for so that it's a liability issue. And so that this wasn't too onerous for existing businesses, we waived their fee. They just had to get this permit. And planning and zoning has made it as simple as possible. It's online registration, et cetera. So that's where, and we have already extended that deadline once. And that's where the legislation stands to date.
Alderman Arnett?
This is an ordinance. It has not been assigned to a committee. I can't imagine that there is an urgency that we're going to skip the committee process and move right to suspending the rules and make an amendment, and I assume vote on this. And if it's not suspending the rules for the purpose of voting on this, why can't the amendment be made a committee?
Alderman Tierney?
We don't want the businesses to think that they have to do this. So because of COVID, we just want to ensure that they know that they don't have to do this now. It's very important in the environment, in the economic climate. And it did go through Planning Commission and very, very thoroughly through Planning Commission. And they voted on it with one, all yay, but one no. So yeah, it's very important that the businesses know that they do not have to do this right now. And that's why I'm proposing another amendment.
So there's no planning commission report with this in granite?
I believe, Regina, can you help me with that? It should be.
I'm sorry, it hasn't gone anywhere. It's on the agenda for first reader. We didn't make any referrals. It's the first meeting.
Planning Commission has looked at it though.
I don't know how that would happen.
We don't
Yeah,
have.
because they had a problem with it. Yeah. I don't know. Huh.
I'm not sure.
I have to tell you, I'm not comfortable with suspending the rules. This is rushed through. We don't have all the information. I don't think if the solution to not affecting businesses, don't have the staff enforce the rule until we can handle it properly legislatively.
But Alderman Arnett, excuse me, I apologize, but this is already out the door. It's on the Planning and Zoning website.
Can you give that to Gavin?
It's already been a regulation. It's already been. Yeah, that's my confusion. This is Sally. we've been working on this, and maybe you can help me. I don't understand why this isn't.
Let me bring Sally in, Alderman Payon, you'll be after Sally. Thank you.
Yeah.
We can't see her.
Hi.
Hi, Sally.
The legislation for sidewalk signs has already been approved a few months ago, maybe a year ago. All this does is extend the fee waiver. We had a fee waiver for 6 months, so businesses could go ahead and get their permits in and not have to pay a fee. That deadline is ended, but there's still a lot of businesses who haven't had a chance to apply. So Alderwoman Tierney thought it would make sense to extend the deadline, especially right now, so people can still apply for their permit without having to pay the fee for the permit.
Sorry, yeah, I forgot we addressed this as we had to do another ordinance. Sorry, my bad. Yeah. So this ordinance is for the fee waiver. We passed the sidewalk sign legislation in another ordinance.
Alderman Payon is next, and it's just a sign.
It's already passed.
I don't see where the urgency or the emergency is here. I think I would support doing this probably if it came down to a vote, but on an emergency basis, I don't see it. And I would vote to give Alderwoman Tierney an atta girl for giving it the best shot she can, but I don't think we ought to be voting on it tonight.
But I don't think you understand. Sorry. The businesses, if I'm a business right now, I'm overdue on getting my sidewalk sign permit. And in light of the pandemic, we don't want them to even think about this until the first of the year. So this amendment that I have yet to introduce says, let's just hold out till January 1st, 2022. Otherwise, they just want to clear it up. They shouldn't have to worry about this. So I just hope you understand why it's being brought up.
I do, but I think it can be brought up at the, the second meeting in May and have the effect. It could be brought up at the next meeting, the first meeting, and it still has the same effect.
Downtown Annapolis Partnership and the business groups really want to know this. So we're just keeping them hanging and I just think that we should tell them that they don't have to worry about this till the first of the year.
Alderman Gay had his hand up next.
Yeah, I support it. It's obviously urgent. They are extended past the deadline. They could be fined right now. Why would we want to fine our businesses in light of what's going on? I hope that we can suspend the rules and help her out with this amendment.
Thanks.
City manager wants to give some clarification, then over to you, Rob.
It's more of a question for the city attorney. I wonder if we can just suspend the collection of this under the state of emergency without having to do this legislation.
I believe we can, sure. Mayor has that authority.
All right, I'm exercising it. Thank you.
All right.
Good.
You mean I just didn't have to go through all that? It's legislation.
So we did not have a second on the suspending the rules. Alderman Savage is next, then Alderman Pindell Charles while we're talking.
I did,
Yeah.
I seconded it.
Oh, okay.
I'm fine with that approach. Although I do want to say, I do think this is just I don't think this is something that needs a permit to begin with. I know I said this when legislation was up. I just think it's an extra amount of red tape when we can still be holding them to a standard without permitting. And I think this kind of shows, case in point, we don't need this, businesses don't need this permit. So that would be one thing. If this is to go forward, I'd probably look at amending it just to amend it out. But
So,
Alderman Tierney.
Yeah, I just, point taken, and I've done an exhaustive effort to investigate that with the Office of Law, and Michael can concur that this permit, for certain reasons, is legally necessary. We tried doing it just as a regulation, but I did revisit that, and the verdict, if you will, legally is that a permit is required for legal reasons, and I think Michael can just nod his head with that.
Well, and two, Mr. Mayor, the code already includes this in it. So if the council felt alternatively about it, they can repeat it all together, but you haven't. And so there is a requirement that there be a permit and that the signage on sidewalks be regulated. So the permit fees mostly are not punitive. They are to administer the program, if you will, but basically to allow that these permittees, these holders of the permits, take some liability if, in case something happens with their sign and somebody trips and falls over their signs, or something else happens with the sign on the public right-of-way.
Are we good under the declaration? Is that right, Mr. City Attorney?
Sure. Yes, Mr. Mayor.
And Regina, you had something on that? No?
No.
No? Okay. Alderman Arnett?
thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of points of information. First of all, fees are done by resolution. I'm not sure why this is even an ordinance, but if it is an ordinance, it needs to be assigned to a committee. I can't even figure out what committee it would go to. And if there has been a planning commission hearing and finding on this, I'd like to see the planning commission report. That's not attached here. So I'm very happy that we're finessing this with you taking care of this under your emergency powers. I think that's a very good solution, but I would like to go back and figure out what all is going on here, why it's an ordinance, not a resolution amending fees, and why it isn't going to a committee, and where is the planning commission?
Regina, where are we on O-30-13-20?
I'm sorry, it was adopted on first reader, and now we're in the process of voting on suspending the rules, and you have a second. So
You had a second?
yes,
So it
so,
looks like we won't need to do that. So how do we back out of this?
well, you have a second, so you have to vote, so we need to do a roll call.
Okay, all those in favor of suspending the rules, we'll do a roll call.
Okay.
No?
Yes. Mayor Buckley,
No?
Alderman Finlayson,
No.
Alderman Rodriguez, Alderman Gay, Alderman Rodriguez,
In favor of suspending the rules? No?
he's muted.
Mark,
Oh, sorry.
Hi.
No.
Alderman Gay,
no.
Alderman Savage,
no.
Alderman Arnett.
No. I mean, yes. No.
Alderwoman Tierney.
No.
Alderman Payon.
No.
Alderwoman Pendell Charles.
No.
Okay. That motion to suspend the rules has been defeated. So we are moving on to the next item on the agenda.
Phew.
Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, amendments on second readers pursuant to City Code 216.180, public hearing required. Next item on the agenda is legislative action, second reader beginning with 0320, Fire Prevention Code, for the purpose of encouraging property owners to solicit bids from licensed minority business enterprises, identifying loan eligibility requirements under the Sprinkler Assistance Fund, clarifying costs, identifying appropriate body for appeals, providing certain catch lines or captions are not law, and to correct any cross references and terminology rendered incorrect by this ordinance and to describe any corrections made in an editor's note following the sections affected, and making certain stylistic changes and generally related to the fire prevention code.
Is there a motion to adopt 0-3-20 on second reader? Need a motion?
So moved.
Thank you.
I thought it was going to
Second.
be withdrawn.
So there's an amendment from Ellie on here. This is a different piece of legislation, isn't it, Ellie?
We have to, I have to, Regina.
We need a second.
We need a second.
Ellie, are you set?
I need a second for this motion, please.
Second.
Okay.
I thought you were going to withdraw this.
Yeah.
I think this is a different piece of legislation, isn't it?
No,
Ellie?
I am withdrawing it.
Okay.
So your amendment is that what that is?
You're confusing me with the amendment that you're talking about. This,
Regina, please.
Alderman.
It does have one amendment.
Yeah.
But are you withdrawing it?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So can we move that now?
Yeah, just
So we want to move the amendment and then we want a motion to withdraw after that, right? No?
just make a motion to withdraw the legislation.
Okay, so we don't have to review the amendment for.
No, but you
So
still have a motion in second on adopting 0320 on second read. So you got to do that.
Right,
No, you
that's
don't.
what I was waiting for.
We can just vote
Where
it
are we
down.
with that?
We have to adopt.
I'll make a motion to withdraw my, never mind.
So we,
Clarification from
Never
Regina, please.
mind.
Okay, for clarity purposes, Alderwoman Tierney would like to withdraw this. You can just vote it down because you voted it to approve it on second reader and you have a second. You can just vote the legislation down.
Okay, can we do it with a show of hands?
Can I ask
Sure.
a question?
yeah.
Alderman Gay?
Is there a reason that you're?
Yeah.
I thought it was critical to, for the historic buildings and.
Yeah, thank you for asking. I wasn't quite sure if I had the opportunity to explain, but due to the economic uncertainties right now, it will be, I'm asking for it to be withdrawn. It will be reintroduced at a later date because as you know, we do have a sprinkler revolving fund set up in the budget. It just didn't seem like this was the right time to ask property owners to sprinkle their buildings. So we will start the clock, maybe the first of next year, and then give them the 5 years to sprinkle their buildings.
Alderman Gay?
Yeah, how significant is that move considering the fire that was on Duke? And we've seen what happened there. I mean,
Yeah.
over the course, you think that waiting
Well-
a year is.
Right. Chief O'Malley he contacted me when the pandemic started and thought that this was something that we probably shouldn't tackle right now. And then I discussed it with David Jarrell and he agreed. So it was a decision to do that. And yeah, I do agree with you, Dwan, in the sense that especially now when you walk the streets, you can see, you know, the vulnerability of these buildings in the historic district. But to ask, I just don't think it would be well received right now by the businesses and or property owners. And once we're on better footing, I will definitely reintroduce it and then give them the 5 years to install their sprinkler system.
So would the, as the legislation is now, they would allow them to use the funds that we currently have in that fund, you know?
Yes.
Yeah, they would be able to update their building. Is there a timetable on when they have to pay that back?
There is, and I don't know it offhand. I don't know if Jody's.
What if they, because of the less traffic that there is now, they wanted to take advantage of that?
Yeah.
And take advantage of the funding that we have available, and maybe we could push back the timeline of when they pay it back to, you know, say once we get to a point of, you know, like economic recovery where we think we'll be able to, you know, bring in more tourists and things like that. Is that possible? Since this,
yeah, it's an excellent point because some of these property owners are taking advantage of their stores being closed, and they are, I don't know if you've noticed, but they're doing a lot of work, and one building in particular is installing a sprinkler system. And yes, the revolving fund they can use that now. There's nothing to prevent them from not using those funds. David, did you want to chime in on the optics of this?
Well, no, I think everybody understands the optics of requiring that they have this huge expenditure at this difficult time. So again, the funds are available. Maybe this is a great time if some of these businesses have the cash that they can move ahead with this. This is probably a good time. But for those that are shut down, that aren't making any income revenue right now, it's tough. So all this does is it's going to push back the 5-year requirement for these properties on Main Street to install the sprinkler systems.
Anybody else? Okay, so we have motion to withdraw. We can do it with a hand, a show of hands. All those in favor of withdrawing, say aye.
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 Ayes have it. Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, the next item on the agenda is 0920, comprehensive bag reduction for the purpose of defining certain terms, prohibiting dealers from supplying customers with plastic bags for use as checkout bags, requiring paper bags containing recycled content, providing for the applicability of the chapter, imposing surcharge on certain checkout bags, imposing interest and certain civil penalties on dealers who fail to make timely remittances of the surcharge, setting forth prohibited conduct by dealers, providing enforcement measures, requiring an annual report to the mayor and the city council, and providing an effective date, and generally relating to checkout bags.
So there is a motion to withdraw, I think, coming up from Alderman Savage for O-9-20. Alderman Savage.
Yes, I'd like to move to withdraw.
Second.
Any discussion? Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley?
Yes.
Alderwoman Finlayson?
Aye.
Alderman Rodriguez?
Aye.
Alderman Gay? Alderman Savage?
Aye.
Alderman Arnett?
Aye.
Alderwoman Tierney?
Aye.
Alderman Payon?
Aye.
Alderwoman Pendle Charles?
Aye.
And motion carries.
Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is R1220, comprehensive bag reduction fines for the purpose of imposing fines concerning the prohibition of certain checkout bags.
Alderman Savage.
Yes, I'd like to move to withdraw.
The second, please.
Second.
Mr. Mayor, can I also just?
Sure.
Thank you. Yeah, just to provide some context for the public, perhaps, if anybody's watching this, I'm withdrawing this because of the potential economic impact during the pandemic crisis and impacts. So I may revisit this in the future, depending on how things improve or recover. I thank you all for your support on the legislation.
Thank you, Madam City Clerk. Please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley?
Yes.
Alderwoman Finlayson?
Aye.
Alderman Rodriguez?
Aye.
Alderman Gay?
Aye.
Alderman Savage?
Aye.
Alderman Arnett?
No.
Alderwoman Tierney?
Aye.
Alderman Payon?
Aye.
And Alderwoman Pendel Charles?
Aye.
And motion carries.
Thank you. I want to thank you all for supporting the businesses during this tough time. Alderman Tierney, do you have something?
Yeah, just a point of clarification for Robert's rules here. So it doesn't have to, these items are on second reader, but to withdraw the legislation, that can be done. I was just curious on why I had to have the sprinkler go through the process of second reader before I.
You did.
Right.
I'm sorry, I wasn't clear to what your
Okay.
question.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Can you state it again?
Okay.
I guess I should have just withdrawn it earlier. Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you all. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. 03419, Planning and Zoning, Appeal Procedures for the purpose of clarifying the procedures governing an appeal of a decision of the Planning and Zoning Director, making stylistic changes, and generally related to appeal procedures.
Is there a motion, .O-34-19? Is that you, Alderman Arnett?
Yes, and my motion is to postpone for 2 council meetings. I apologize to my colleagues. I have not been able to get together with the chair of the Board of Appeals, and I have promised constituents that this will have another hearing before, we'll have a hearing before the Rules in City Government before it goes to a vote. There are some amendments I wish to make consistent with Planning Commission recommendations, and then there won't be time to vote for this on the next council meeting because we have to go to the Rules of City Government before that.
Can I get a second, please?
Second.
You can do this with a show of hands, can we, Regina? All those supporting the postponement, say aye. Show you.
Aye.
Aye.
Uh,
Say aye. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is 0620, Planned Developments, Public Housing Bulk Standards for the purpose of allowing a height adjustment for certain eligible public housing development.
For motion to adopt O-6-20 on second reader.
So moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Discussion. We can do this with a show of hands. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. Is there a motion to adopt O-6-20 on third reader?
So moved. Second.
Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley?
Yes.
Alderwoman Finlayson?
Aye.
Alderman Rodriguez?
Aye.
Alderman Gay?
Aye.
Alderman Savage?
Aye.
Alderman Arnett?
aye.
Alderwoman Tierney?
Aye.
Alderman Payon?
Aye.
And Alderwoman Pendel Charles?
Aye.
And motion carries.
I hope Melissa is listening.
Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, the next item on the agenda, sir, is Resolution R-1520, City-Sponsored Special Events in Fiscal Year 2021, for the purpose of identifying city-sponsored special events and waiving certain related city fees during fiscal year 21.
Is there a motion to adopt R-15-20?
So moved.
Second.
Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley?
Yes.
Alderwoman Finlayson?
Aye.
Alderman Rodriguez?
Sorry. Aye.
Spin around.
What's going on there?
Alderman Gay?
Cleaning the kitchen.
I'm sorry.
I'll explain later. I had to get on my phone.
Alderman Gay?
That's okay.
Alderman Gay?
Aye.
Alderman Savage?
Aye.
Alderman Arnett?
Aye.
Alderwoman Tierney?
Aye.
Alderman Payon?
Aye.
Alderwoman Pendle Charles?
Aye.
And that motion carried.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, the next item on the agenda is Resolution R 2020, swimming pool fees, for the purpose of specifying the fees that will be charged for the use of the new City of Annapolis swimming pool and setting an effective date.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adopt R-2020? Alderman Arnett?
So moved, and there are some amendments.
Yep. And the second, please. Second?
Second.
Second.
Do you want to talk us through any of the amendments, or should we just vote?
I can.
Alderman?
Well, we should probably get a second on them first. I'll move amendment 1 through 4 from the. Are these from Finance Committee? Oh yeah, I guess so. Oh, so well, sorry. You can. I thought it was Rules and Governments for some reason, but go ahead if you want to introduce them.
Yeah, the Finance Committee.
Now, Rob is the strongest swimmer here. He should probably introduce him.
Swim away.
Regina wants to say something.
We heard Rob make the motion. Alderman Arnett, are you seconding it, the amendment?
I thought I made the motion, but I'll second it.
Okay.
I think I second.
We have a second.
All right. And you're going to talk us through them, Alderman Arnett?
So the Finance Committee discussed this, and we had other council members there. We moved to change the charge for non-residents for a family pass from $240 to $300. We moved on the second amendment to change the non-resident to increase it from to $180 from $155. The same thing for Amendment 3 for an adult pass, going from $225 to $240. On the other hand, we discussed this with Director Trader, and we decided to leave the child pass at $4 instead of moving it up to $5. So that was the sense of the Finance Committee.
Alderman Savage?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And just to give some more information for amendments 1 and through 3, the intention is not to raise more funds, more revenue. The intention is to raise the fees for non-residents to ensure that our actual residents who've paid their taxpayer money to build this new pool, they don't get crowded out. And if that perchance it turns out that it's not a problem, we can go ahead and change these fees in the future. But I do remember that the Rec and Parks Director did say that previously that they do cap the number of members going in this pool. And my fear, again, as a swimmer, I know if it's a good deal, they're going to get balled up and you're going to have a lot of people at this pool. So hopefully we do, and hopefully they're mostly city residents.
Alderman Gay?
Yeah, I'm still concerned about some of the pricing for city residents, particularly youth passes. Looking at an increase from $55 to $130, and on the second for adult passes from $65 to $190. So that is still a significant increase for city residents.
Alderman Savage?
Yeah, I guess just to comment on that, those prices are still incredibly competitive based on regional pools for a season pass. This is for the entire 3-month season in the summer. But again, if this proves to be a problem, we can always revisit it. But that was the thinking.
Okay, any other comments? We can do this by a show of hands, Regina?
Yes.
Is the cost going to additional maintenance that will be required, or additional staff, or?
So there'll be a lot more staffing required because the pool now has a lot more amenities. So I'd say most of it will be absorbed in that.
Yeah, all of the costs associated with the pool, for the new pool, will be much higher. So the staffing, the electrical costs, the chemical costs, all of those will be higher. So the original ones proposed by Rec and Park were meant to capture that additional cost, not to make a profit or anything, but just cover the costs.
Are there waivers included from recs and parks from families from low-income homes who would not be able to afford the season pass at $190, but maybe they want to participate, or maybe their kids want to go and they still wouldn't be able to afford the $5 a day?
I can't answer that. I don't know the answer to
twice a week.
Alderman Finlayson, I'm pretty sure, Dawn, that you can get scholarships to the rec center. I'm sure the same thing will apply, but I'll clarify that.
Alderman Gay, we were very concerned, or at least I was very concerned about keeping the price for children and seniors at the same rate as it has been, because we do want it to be affordable. So if you notice, Amendment 4 does not follow the recommendation, which was to increase it to $5 per visit, but we're keeping that at $4, which is what it currently stands at. So we did have that discussion, and it was a concern and a consideration to make sure that it is affordable.
Thank you. Alderman Savage.
Yeah, just quickly, that's a good question, Alderman Gay. And my understanding is that the kids who sign up for camps do get free membership to the pool, but I think that is a very good question. Regarding the, I do have a question for the city manager, because this is going to get passed, but I mean, so if this passes and the pool, for example, doesn't get completed until, I don't know, later in June, are the rates going to be, are they going to be prorated at all?
So that's a really good question, because this is just a change to Resolution 1619, which was the fees for FY20. Right now, the schedule to open the pool is mid-June, and who knows if we're going to really even be able to open the pool because of COVID-19. But what we're going to do is reflect whatever is passed here will be reflected in the FY21 fees on a going forward basis. So I'm not sure how they're going to prorate, because clearly the pool is not going to open Memorial Day. So normally it opens Memorial Day, you buy the season pass and you get the entire season. So we may have to prorate that because it's not going to open Memorial Day. At the earliest, it would be mid-June if the COVID situation allows that.
Alderman Pindell Charles.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Alderman Gay, I know your predecessor, Alderwoman Henson, was very concerned about whether there was allowance for folks to pay per month. Mr. City Manager, do you recall if that's in place or not?
I do not know, but I can certainly find that. I'll check with Archie. I'll try to get that in real time. I'll check with Archie right now.
I know that was a large question, so thank you.
Okay, Alderman Tierney.
Yeah, this is somewhat related, but approximately how many more jobs is this creating, and are those city jobs? I guess that's directed to David Joe.
I'm not sure the exact number. It's about double, though. It's about double the number of staff that's going to be required at that pool, and it's all going to be city jobs. It's not contracted out. They'll be part-time and seasonal employees. They won't be full-time for manning that pool. I think we have one full-time employee that oversees the pool, but most of them will be seasonal and temporary.
That's good. Thank you.
Part-time.
If we're expecting to cut into, if we're expecting to cut into the the swim season significantly due to the virus, I mean, how obviously impact, the amount of money we bring in, how does that affect the pool moving forward? In terms of will they still be able to, all the amenities and all of the things that you're expected to roll out this year? Do you think that'll be something that will maybe we can continue next year if we don't even get to use it at all this year?
That's a good question. What I was thinking about when I answered the question before is for those buying season passes, will those season passes be prorated by the length of the season? And I think they would need to be. All the amenities should be completed. We expect them to be completed in mid-June. It's the schedule right now. So we may have a pool that's a brand spanking new pool that can't be used because of COVID. But we certainly hope that's not the case.
Okay. So we have a motion for the amendments in a second. You can do it by show of hands. All those in favor of the amendments, say aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. Is there a motion to vote on whether the amendments to R-2020 are substantive? Nope. Okay. Is there a motion, do you need to call the roll, Regina, or not? Sorry.
Right, we can vote on third reader.
Okay. Is there a motion to adopt R-20-20 as amended on second reader?
So moved.
Second.
Yeah.
Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley,
Yes?
Alderwoman Finlayson,
Aye.
Alderman Rodriguez,
Aye.
Alderman Gay,
Aye.
Alderman Savage,
Aye.
Alderman Arnett,
Aye.
Alderwoman Tierney,
Aye.
Alderman Payon,
Aye.
and Alderwoman Pendall Charles.
Aye.
And that motion carried.
You, Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is discussion on public comments.
Who would like to start this?
Alderman Arnett.
Just a question before that, though. Are we going to do FT4 after this discussion or do it now?
Yes. Yep. After this discussion.
All right.
I'm sorry, what's this discussion about?
We have a transfer to discuss. It was added to the amendment.
But this one is a discussion on public comments, just to get everybody's, this is a work in progress. We're slowly ramping things up. I think everybody understands the times that we're in. It's not perfect, of course, but we don't know when perfect is going to come back. And so we all better learn these skills, because I think really it's a big part of our future, but we have to be considerate of the people that are, all of us, who are just kind of working our way through it. Any, Alderman Arnett?
So I think there's a couple of things that can help the council and a couple of things that can help the community. I was still scrambling. We got some emails with comments close to the beginning of the council meeting. We can't control that, but I think one of the things we can control is having all of these things in a central location so that we don't have to keep looking to see if we have a new email. And then what I did was, since I didn't want to have to find the emails, I printed them all out, which of course is not environmentally sound. But we heard today during finance from Julian that the administration is looking at a couple of different ways. One of the really passionate responses I got from a constituent is there's nothing like being able to see somebody presenting their point of view, presenting it with their passion or their hand gestures or whatever. I agree with Alderwoman Finlayson. It's also nice to be able to read them because you can take them at your own pace. But I do hope we're going to work on improving this. I also would suggest that we can limit the amount of public hearings that are required by slowing down on the amount of legislation we're putting in. I think we introduced, 8 new pieces tonight, and I wonder how many of those are actually critical to take up during the budget and during this weather at home time. I do agree with you, Mayor, in closing. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going back to the old days ever, and certainly not in the near term. So we do have to get acclimated to this new reality.
Any other discussion?
Oh, I can.
Alderman Go had his hand up first, and Alderman Tierney after that.
No, I appreciate the forms that were created, and I appreciate that Ian and Regina, continue to get them to us throughout the day. It works for me as of now. Obviously, like you said, this is brand new for everybody. So what we have now, moving forward, we definitely can incorporate more technology in the process. Even maybe looking into having the public, at some point, we can maybe set up a video for public comment if possible. I think there are a number of ways we can, get the public involved moving forward. And I don't think it's any of our intentions to kind of discredit them from, being a part of the legislative process. We just know the importance of getting, legislation moving.
Alderman Tierney, then Alderman Payon.
Yeah, just a suggestion, a little tidbit here. What I've done on my email is I just made a folder called public testimony. So I just put them all in there. And then when I have the time, if not then, to, later, whatever, that window of time to read them, they're in that folder. That's been very helpful. Otherwise, it's like, oh my God, what are all these emails? So that was my tidbit from Ellie. Thank you.
Alderman Payon.
Well, one of the things we're missing, Mr. Mayor, is having everybody being able to have access to the comments. Make them truly public so that even fellow commenters have access to it. That's the way it is when we have oral testimony at our hearing. Everybody knows what such and such is said about a certain issue. I don't know how we can overcome that. Are these posted in, at the city website or some public place where people, if they're interested, could have access to the comments?
Yeah, Regina, I believe they are, right? We post them in the minutes.
Ahead of time, hopefully?
No.
I'd just like to say that we currently just put the name and the address of the person submitting the information in the minutes because we can't edit what anyone writes. So we can share it with you, but it is not, as of right now, placed anywhere where the public can read it.
And Alderman Payon, I think a lot of the comments come in at the last minute, right, Regina? So we try to get them to everybody as fast as possible, but they're in the minutes after the meeting. Is that right, Regina?
Their name and addresses are in the minutes. We, as clerks, we take action minutes, and we don't put summaries in minutes. So we couldn't actually take their text and insert it in the minutes because we only take record the actions that actually happen in your meeting.
Well, I think you're doing a great job of getting them to us as quickly as you can. I understand that, and I'm grateful for that. But it just occurred to me that other members of the public would ideally like to have those, I'm sure. And maybe we ought to just think between now and the next meeting if there is a way to do that or improve on what we're doing. I don't know if there is, but just a thought.
You may want to talk to Mike about that.
So, Takia, would it be possible if we could use through this, through the Zoom and all of that stuff, if we could set it up where we send out a certain link for the public, and once we get to the public hearing process, like we're in the waiting room in that portal. where you can potentially like, you know, include them and then they can exit, then we bring in the next person and then they exit. So that still able to get their 3 minutes and just be through Zoom.
I thought we already did that. Maybe not.
We are looking into a portal on that. That's one of the things that Alderman Arnett was saying that is being presented and being investigated right now. Takia?
I am not sure. I know that there is a discussion that's going to happen soon about another portal. Are you meaning physically coming in?
Yeah, you know, like how we get the link and then when we go in to join the group, we'll wait for a little bit and sometimes we'll raise our hands in that like portal where they hold us at. Is that available? Like if we could do that for the public and like send a link for them and we open it for like an hour and they're able to join the Zoom meeting with us.
We're going to bring on
excuse us.
Julian.
Julian has something to say. He's coming around to the mic.
Okay.
There he is.
Hey, everyone. So that is one of the things we're looking into. The problem with once you give access to the camera, there becomes security concerns, and that's when we've seen other municipalities actually get breached and have inappropriate materials put up. So that's the thing we're looking at, is how to actually control that part of it, so that we can allow that access, but without giving full access to our broadcast and getting fined by the FCC and little lovely things like that.
Thank you. Alderman Arnett?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think I want to support the point that Alderman Payon made. One of the other losses when we don't have the public hearing is the rest of the public doesn't get to hear what people are saying. And I don't think the public gets to see. You introduced some, Mr. Mayor, during the discussion of various pieces of the legislation. But even then, the public doesn't really know what the people are saying. And as a second point, I'm getting this in different forms. I'm getting a lot of these with a title on the email called no reply. But then I'm also getting some from directly from people, and it's hard to sort out. So you have to look at all the no reply ones, and you have to look at all the ones you're getting directly to see if those are the same as the no reply ones or not. And they're not always that same way. So there's still some traffic management that we've got to work on here.
Regina?
I'm sorry. Thank you, Mayor Buckley. Alderman Arnett, in the past, before we had the COVID-19 situation, all of the requests to go to, with information to be sent to you came from me, and I forwarded them to you. So people who are familiar with this way of submitting information to you are continuing to do it. Now, we do have people that submit their information on a new form that we've created, and those are the ones that come up and says no. They say no reply. Once they hit enter and enter their statement into the record, it automatically goes to the alderman. So we don't send those actually to you. We send the ones that are actually sent to the city clerk at annapolis.gov, and that's why you're going to get them in two forms.
So I'd like to amend the budget to get Regina a better microphone so we.
Oh, I'm sorry. Would you like me to say it again?
I do want to hear what you have to say, but I'm not sure we need to do it now. I think you were saying that there was always a process to get public testimony to us. This is slightly changed because of the virus. I get that too. And I'm certainly not complaining about the work that you're doing or the staff are doing, getting it to us. I do think that we're going to have to struggle hard to make this a better process for the people that we serve. So, and I think we're doing that. And I think that what Julian just told us is another step forward. I do think we need to work hard on that.
Okay.
So I just want to say to thank Julian and Mark and Brian. A little bit over 2 years when they came into office, you guys were still handing around VHS tapes, I'm told. And so because we moved to this, we have come this far. But there is always obviously room to improve. So I think we're going to get there, and the technology is going to be better, and we'll be able to afford better things. So thank you for your patience, everybody. Alderman Gay.
Yeah, what about, or just another quick suggestion, even if we feel that we are comfortable at the point where the 9 of us can get, oh, my bad.
Thank you.
If we feel like, that the 9 of us can get together in the council chambers, and then we can just individually have the public pop up on our screens in the chamber, I mean,
one's trying to kill you.
I mean, the mask, obviously, and, practice some social distancing with the desk, but just so that we can enhance the public participation. I'm just saying the technology gives us endless opportunities.
Thank you. Okay, I think we'll move on from that. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is FT 420, Public Works Transfer, Facilities, Salaries, and Benefits, $134,500 transfer to Facilities Contractual Services, $134,500.
Is there a motion to approve FT 4-20?
So move.
I don't have this. Can I get a little explanation?
Let's get.
We need a second.
You seconding that, Rhonda? Yeah.
Second.
Yep. Get David to clarify this, please, for Alderman Gay.
Yeah, so in our facilities group in Public Works, they've had vacancies in some of the key positions there due to retirements. So they need to transfer for a number of purposes over to contract services. Part of it is that the lease cost for the Gorman Street building has increased, so need to cover that. And also need to cover some other I don't have it in front of me right now, but some other contract services that they have had to be done on our city buildings. Jody, do you have anything to add to that?
Yes, so in the explanation, it mentions mold remediation and emergency repairs, but right now in front of me, I don't have the detail that was backing that up.
Okay, Alderman Tierney. Just unmute.
Hi. Is it represented in the current budget, Jody? 2021? Or it's somehow?
This is for FY 2020. They need to move some money from the personal services salaries budget down to the contractual services line item. One of the problems was there wasn't enough budgeted in the rent and leases line item to cover the Gorman Street rent and common area maintenance costs that they incur over there. And then they had some mold remediation work they had to do, and they had to do some other repairs. It would take me a minute. I could try to find the detail if you want me to.
Oh, no, that's fine.
The finance committee had the detail too, so that might be in the support that we had for them. And this would not, in 2021, we have included the correct amount of the rents and leases in the budget for.
Yeah, that was my question.
Yeah,
so,
yeah,
okay.
We have made it right for 2021.
Cool. Thank you.
Alderman Savage.
Has this been reviewed by the Finance Committee?
Yes, it was on it was during their last meeting, yes.
Okay. I'm assuming that's a favorable recommendation.
Yes, they recommended all 3 items favorably. The 2 essays were in the agenda, but this didn't make it onto the agenda.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley?
Yes.
Alderman Finlayson?
Aye.
Alderman Rodriguez?
Aye.
Alderman Gay?
Aye.
Alderman Savage?
Aye.
Alderman Arnett?
Aye.
Alderwoman Tierney?
Aye.
Alderman Payon? He's muted. Alderman Payon? Okay. Alderwoman Pendell Charles?
Okay, one more time about the unmute button on. Aye.
The motion passes.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Mr. Mayor, that was the last item on the agenda.
Is there anything else for good order?
We need an order of wings.
I move that we adjourn.
And
Second.
And martini for Sheila.
Yes.
And Ross.
And a landing for Rob Savage. He looks like he's landing a plane.
All those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.